Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Jean Gallagher, Discover Rising Tides, How the Outside Makes the Inside Better. And we're here with Denise. And Denise's topic this month is, hey, Denise, how are you? First, I should say hi to you first.
Hello, hello. It's a beautiful day.
It is, as I dive right in. And so I understand that we're talking about life vision today and the need for that in personal growth and fulfillment. Am I right?
Yes, we've been talking about self-care and how self-care and personal growth are so important to our life. Creates who we are. And
Mhm.
so today I want to talk a little bit about life vision and why that is absolutely necessary. Yes, for personal growth, but truly for fulfillment, to living that life with purpose that we enjoy every single day. And what I truly, truly believe is this is not a luxury, but a necessity
Mm.
to really be able to sit down and decide, really create that vision. What is my life? What is the life that I really want to create, that I want to live? And then purposefully, we can take steps to get there.
That's that's a lot of heavy lifting, right? Is it, we've talked about so many different areas about self-care, but we really haven't focused. I'm so glad you're bringing this up because we really haven't focused on the life vision piece.
It's one of those things, yes. It's not something you sit down, for 10 minutes and then just write. It definitely takes some self-reflection and really it takes time to actually ask yourself the questions. Well, what's working in life? What do I enjoy? What don't I enjoy?
Hmm.
And so when we don't have the answers to these questions, our lives can become really disconnected. We don't have purpose. There's no momentum in life. You kind of like, this is when people go, I'm just kind of going through the motions. And we know the type of energy that brings really low energy. Low energy brings more low energy, right? And, when we think of, as the longevity specialist, my goal is to have people uplifted and excited about their health, their wellness, personal, physical, emotional, and mental wellness, today, but really into the future because it's more than about what's happening today. And this is this having this taking the time to step back and really deciding what is it that I want my life to look like actually helps you to it guides you down a path. I mean, how many times have you, started something, made a decision, and you kind of done something, and you kind of went down a path, and it's like, okay, that was fine. And then you do something else that takes you down a path that's completely different. And these paths tend to diverge, but they never make it to the convergence because you haven't really decided what that's supposed to be.
Mhm.
So every step you take when you have answered these questions, when you create this live vision, no matter how small they are actually aligning with your ultimate goal and taking you towards there. Will there be, detours here and there? Of course, that's life, right?
One of the things that came to me when you were talking about this is, we're on this hamster wheel of life and you get so stuck in the everyday and the mundane of it all.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be difficult to jump off that wheel and take some time and sit with this and allow these thoughts, their creative thoughts to happen. And it takes a bit to wind down to get this to happen, but how important it is.
Now think about when you were younger. Like you had dreams, you had
Mm.
goals, you had these visions. You didn't know how you were going to get there. It didn't matter back then. The whole point was to have these dreams. And yeah, there were times when people would say, "Oh, you're a dreamer," or, "Well, how are you going to do that?" And sometimes the answer is, "I don't
I
know
don't
just
know.
yet." But having that dream, creating the vision, those opportunities I'm either gonna see them where I didn't see them before, or they're just going to smack me right upside the head because they were right there the whole time and I didn't recognize it because that I wasn't looking for them.
So what is the best way to start these thought processes and get this thing going?
You're going to love this. Ready? Meaningful goal setting with dun, da, da, the three
The
P's.
three P's. I thought that was
That's
coming.
absolutely. There's a reason why I go back to the three P's: plan, prioritize, and prepare all the time. Because with this, this is a plan. A vision is a plan. So, you write it down, ultimate goal, you want this, that, and the other. I want my life to look a certain way. And we need to take steps to get there. We can't actually go from step one to, I've got it all right away. So this is where that prioritizing step comes in. So when you think about it, your lives and your dreams, these goals that you're creating kind of become this beautiful, I don't know, what's the best phrase? Kind of tapestry, like woven tapestry. Instead of all just little pieces of thread that you may have on a table, when you start making these goals and you start planning what this vision really is, what this life vision is, you're really starting to craft something really beautiful, something that's not necessarily tangible, but tangible in a way that you can write down. This is the plan. These are the steps. And then, of course, to prepare. The goals reflect the values, so obviously the vision still has to resonate with your core values. I can say, oh, my vision is to, I'm trying to think of a crazy vision, is to, be the next owner of NetJets and whatever, but my real vision is to be able, is to have this life where, Mark and I can kind of pick up and go when we want to, still live, still do our work, but also bring our family along. So, we're not really worried about, what's happening back home. Everything there is taken care of. So that's really my vision of what I want my life to look like. The core value with the net jets, that to me, that and I mean, this may be somebody's vision, but to me, that's more of a materialistic goal, or one that you reach as you're creating your vision. It's not the vision.
It really is for people to dream big and be comfortable with those dreams.
Absolutely. We want our kids to be dreamers. We want them to be creative. Yet we put them, at some point, we go to college or, technical school or life school, and, that creativity is kind of beaten out of us because, we have to be realistic. We need a job that's going to pay the bills and all of that. Well, why can't they coincide?
Mm.
And that's kind of where that vision is. And and early on in my life and in my career, when I was living alone and I had an apartment that I lived on my own, and insurance and a car and all that, yeah, obviously I needed a job that was going to pay the bills, but that was just a step toward that vision.
So figuring out, what do you really want out of life?
Mhm.
And if the world was your oyster, as the saying goes, what would you really like? And be comfortable with having those thoughts and not tossing in a bunch of self-doubt. That'll never happen to me. That self-doubt that comes into play that'll just beat us backwards.
Right. Well, and in on top of self-doubt, then there's the naysayers that we have in life.
Ourselves and the other people.
Right. Sometimes, other people can really, take our dreams and kind of mash them into the ground. But it's your dream, not their dream. I would suspect that if you ask that person what their dream was, they couldn't answer you.
Mhm.
And so that's something to take into consideration when other people are, poo-pooing your dreams and, telling you, giving you negative feedback. Now, feedback is important. you know, if it's somebody you know, love, and trust, asking the question, this is what I want, does this make sense? Does this first step make sense towards my goal, my vision? And that's great, because sometimes, I have these ideas, and I talk to either my husband Mark or my business bestie Suzanne, and both of them take what I've said, my idea, and they just can tweak it a little bit. And so
Mhm.
sometimes having, a community, and of course, connection and community is always important, because those people can help you move along, towards your vision a lot faster than sometimes you can do it on our own.
I love that. It is just not all your responsibility to figure out what your life goals are and your life vision.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thanks, Denise.
You're
This was
welcome. And
very insightful, as always.
I tried.
Hello, everyone. This is Jean Gallagher, Discover Rising Tides, and I want to just take a moment to talk about my friend, Denise Stegall. I am honored to call her as a friend, and I'm so grateful that she gives us her insight during our shows, each show, and talks about healthy living, eating real food. You hear Denise say, eat real food a lot. Well, she means it, and she knows what she's talking about. She is an amazing healthy living coach, curator at Living Healthy List. And if you ever have any questions about what is real food, why does it matter, how does that apply to me, how do I change, what do I need to do, how do I even create a healthy living shopping list, make sure that you call her. She is your healthy living coach, and you can find her at healthylivinglist.com. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Discover Rising Tides, How the Outside Makes the Inside Better. I'm Jean Gallagher, and I am so excited to introduce to you our guest today, and Susan Shatzer. Hey, Susan, how are you?
I am great. How are you doing, Jean?
I'm really well. Susan is an energetic empowerment expert, and we're going to learn about what that is. But before we start, give us a little bit of your bio, and then we'll get going.
Sure. So I had the awesome pleasure of spending some time with God prior to prior to taking my first breath 55 years ago. My mom's water broke on August 22nd. Excuse me, and I wasn't born until September 8th. So my whole life, I have been sort of late to everything, projected on. If anyone's going to be late, it's going to be Susan. She was late to her birth. So anytime I would show up, it was Susan time, which was perfect time because that was my time. And in the process, my angelic team recently, within the past decade, kind of tapped me on the shoulder and said, do the math on that. So I got my calculator out and I was like, August 22nd, September 8th, that's 18 days, Jean. 18.
I didn't even think it was physically possible for that, right?
Yeah. So when I spoke with OBGs and surgeons and pediatricians, they're like, yeah, like you shouldn't be here and your mother should not be here either. So just in and of itself, that's a miracle. But when I realized that it had been that long, I sat back and started asking questions like, well, where was I? Was I like this body in the birth canal inverted for 18 days? Like, really, where was I? And time stopped and I could see every particle. And this sort of lucid dream image dropped down, and I was in heaven, and I was talking with God, and I was sort of arguing with him in a sense that, look, I'm not doing it. I know the rules up here. I get to choose. This lifetime is filled with disease, heartache, betrayal, illness, cheating, on and on and on. And I'm like, look, I'm tapping out. I'm not going. There's got to be somebody else more qualified. I said, why does it have to be me? And he opened his arms like this, and he showed me all of these twinkling lights in there. And I was like, oh, what are those? And he said, those are the souls waiting for you on earth to support them and help them heal for their soul's evolution, which is why we incarnate here. And you can't wait 100 years till it's a nicer place on earth. You have to go now. And I was like, all right, I've got a mission bigger than myself. I'll be in service. So I took my first birth breath, and it was game on with the challenges ever since that first time.
That's quite an incredible story in itself.
Yeah, that's lifetime kind of like kicked off. And then I sort of came here without the veil so I could see the unseen, hear the unheard, and know the unknown. And that's how it all started.
Amazing. And so tell us what is an energetic empowerment expert?
So cool. So what I do, Jean, is I have the ability to go into someone's reality. So people show me their lifelines, like east to west this way. So I can see all the way back in the past and then what's projected for their future as well. And then their ancestors are shown to me from north to south. So with all of that information, I'm able to tap in and see energetically where the locks, blocks, and stops are. So at that time, our subconscious creates our reality. So I'm able to go into the subconsciousness and pull out the unconsciousness, and their whole reality and life changes.
So can I ask a basic question first?
Yes.
What is a lifeline?
So a lifeline is our soul's lifeline. It's the life of the soul. And the line is the spaces and places where we've chosen to be, do, have, create, generate, and institute.
And so how do you, trying to figure out how to pose this question. So how do you delineate between the east and the west and the north and the south? And how does that appear to you?
So you show me your lifeline this way. So in the middle is the present. So if you're talking about something that happened in the past or a situation, an experience, it could be from a previous lifetime, it would go this way. And you show it to me in like a movie. So it's like a rollout of a movie that I would see. And then projected for the future is every time you make a choice or a decision here, you actually impact the direction of which your lifeline, your destination, where you're headed, gets changed a little bit. Yeah.
So my head is spinning in a good way, not a bad way, in a good way. And so if somebody isn't familiar with creating a lifeline, how do you help them envision that and put it into words?
Yeah. So like my job isn't to create, like everyone creates their own reality. What I'm here to do is eliminate anything that's preventing them from moving forward or getting on path or being in the direction. So many people right now are not what I call their soul's goal. So we've all come here with a target as to what we're supposed to be doing, what we're supposed to be creating, how we're going to influence, the people in the world, whatever it happens to be. And we're like off the mark a little bit. So we're not quite honed in or on the path. So I'm able to eliminate the things that created them missing the path or being slightly off of it to get them on board. And then it's sort of like so many people feel as though they're driving along and then they have to slow down to go over the speed bump. And then they'll pick up again. And you may feel that way with a career, with a relationship, with a place that you live. It could be anything where you're cruising along and then you've got to slow down to go over it. Well, what I do is I just eliminate all the speed bumps so you can just keep going, super fast paced. And then put it in words. Other people, and even myself, like we do this looping thing. So I live here in Florida in Daytona, so it's the Daytona 500. And so they loop around. And what happens is you keep looping, looking for the checkered flag because you're here to win the race, right? Like we're all taught to find the answer, make a good choice, make the right decision. So we're all here and we're taught to figure it out, but that's not actually the truth. The truth is that everything's energy. And in quantum physics, with the double slit experiment, it's when the observer's present that the particles actually do not act random any longer. And we are the observer of our reality.
I like the analogy though. And that helps create that picture or paint that picture. And so how do you know if you're connected with your soul's goal or disconnected?
Yeah. So what I'm able to do is, so people who are on the loop, like I show them the exit ramp. So it's not about getting the checkered flag and winning the race. It's like, let's get off the loop. So we have we have choice. Basically, you have no choice when you're just circling. When you get off the exit ramp, you can choose left, right, straight, diagonal, back on, whatever you'd like to choose. So that's choice reality. And so it's not so much that I'm showing people how to do it. It's that they vibrationally become aligned with that which they're here to do, have, be, create, generate, and institute. It's like attracts like here on planet Earth. So they're off a little bit because they're not the frequency of their goal, their soul's goal.
Can we talk about frequency a little bit? Because I think that this is really important, because everything has its own frequency.
Yes.
And aligning with the correct frequency is really essential in order to achieve whatever it is we want to achieve. Is that a correct statement?
No.
Okay, good. Tell me why.
Yeah. So like that would be third dimension. That's what they would like for you to like believe is the way it is. So like attracts like. That's basically, what it is. So you were just talking about like creating something. Is that what you were referencing the most about, Jean?
Well, or having, I don't know if it's creating something or actually achieving something.
Yeah, so achieving something is when you have choice in order to create it. Not achieving something is when you are not in choice. You don't have choice. So not having choice is the form of religion has rules, form, structure, and significance of being in this reality, what a good person is, what a bad person is, what a good daughter is, what a good son is. We have all of these box walls that fold, we have to fold, staple, and paste yourself in, versus bringing yourself to neutrality. You can receive everything without judgment.
In rules, this is interesting too, because rules really can also define us, or we're putting ourselves in many different boxes in just in everyday life, right? Whether it's our job or our work job or our job as a parent or whatever that happens to be, we are aligning ourselves into boxes that are maybe preventing some of this growth, correct?
Absolutely, because we're all here to do what we ought to do, what we should do, what we must do, what we have to do, and it's all done by obligation and responsibility, and it's not done from choice.
And so how do we move into choice?
So when people come to me, Jean, their cup is like so full. And if I start to educate them and add more stuff, we're going to make a mess on the table and the floor at their house. So we have to dump their cup out first. So by dumping their cup out, you show me your life like a computer screen, and you have trillions of tabs that are open, these little baby tabs of programs that you have running ever since before you were even first born. And so they're all running in the background. And there's like a section from infancy, and then a section from toddler, and a section from teenage and adulthood, and on, and past life and future life and that kind of thing. Well, what's happening is they're all running in the background, and you're on the front screen trying to create your life. And all you can see is that Microsoft little rainbow circle swirling around and around and around. And you're like, it's going to stop at some point. It's going to catch up. I know it is. And you have to shut your computer down. It'll crash. You have to reload it, restart it. So when I dump your cup out, I'm eliminating those tabs that you have open, so you have more bandwidth. And then your cup is dumped out, so you have more space to invite in that which you'd like to have in your life. And in doing that, your vibration raises, or is a different frequency, because you've eliminated all the stuff you've been lugging around with you that no longer serves you, but did at a certain time.
And you're letting it go. Because in your analogy, and that was a really great way to put it, we're all just buffering.
Yes.
That's a problem.
What I do is like the old defragmentation program that we used to do, back in the 80s,
Right.
90s, the 2000s, where at night we would like run it. We'd wake up in the morning and like all of our information would be back where it's supposed to be. And we'd have more space and our computer would run faster, quicker, and easier. Well, I'm a defragmenter. I call myself a master pattern interrupter because we're going to interrupt the patterning that people are on, that they've been programmed with, since before they even got here.
So when people come to you for help, are there some commonalities, or what drives people to say, geez, Susan, defrag me?
Well, they know that it's not working. So it's people who've done like self-help books, seminars, summits, webinars, like courses and healings in pharmacy and doctors. And they've been to they've just tried everything, but nothing seems to be working. Nothing seems to be getting them to the next step. Like they'll make a little bit of progress, maybe slide back or make a little progress, but still not be where they're, feel as though they should be. And so that's when their life kind of crosses my path and they'll show up on my schedule. And it's because like attracts like. And so I have the awareness or the healing or the ability that they're looking for that's going to create greater in their life that they don't actually have access to at this point.
Like attracts like.
Yes.
And do you think that through this process, that their vibration changes, right? And so what they're attracting then would change too.
Yes. Yep. They attract people, places, things, conversations, activities, and possibilities that they wouldn't normally have access to if they were still at the frequency they were when we first worked together.
Hmm. How do you do that?
Well, so my angelic team is on this side and I have a galactic team as well. And the person I'm working with, angelic team and galactic team, are on this side. And so we have access to it, sort of like a triangle. This is how I kind of describe it to people. Whereas their higher self is at the top, their angelic team is on one side, their galactic team is on the other side, and I'm the lines that connect the dots.
Mm.
So I'm able to access through the ambassadors of whatever species they were at whatever time, on whatever planet, in whatever universe. And they're able to step forward and they can show me things, that it's time now to like get rid of stuff. And, Earth and humanity is at a point where, we're awakening, and our vibrational frequencies are rising just as the Schumann resonance is with Mother Earth. And so we're all in combination, in coordination with having this happen. And we're here on the planet very specifically at this time to experience this transition, to experience this ascension, to experience this new way of being, feeling, thinking, and having.
Do you find that people have in the beginning of the conversations, there's a challenge in digging out what needs to be dug out? Or how do you help people find the right piece? So if I'm challenged with self-help books. I don't know. It just they don't stick in my brain. Nothing's grabbing at me. It doesn't mean that I'm better than the self-help books. It just means that I'm probably more challenged. But so if you have somebody that's gone through all of these exercises and done all of these things and really at the point where nothing is working, is it hard? It would be hard for me to say, well, Susan, I don't know. I just know something's not right, right? Is it hard for people to start communicating or helping you figure out where the gaps are or where the changes need to happen?
Not at all.
Oh my goodness.
They don't have to believe what I do. They don't have to understand what I do. They don't have to like me. There's none of that. This just works. You know what I mean? Like, I don't have a point of view about anything really. It's like, it's some people can receive it, some people can't receive it. Some people are ready for it, some people aren't ready for it. And that's where like all the other modalities in the world are just so awesome because they will resonate with someone that's at that same frequency.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And so when I pop in, like I can see what's going on in their reality. So I make mention of things that are happening and they're like, how did you know that? And I'm like, well, I'm in your reality and you're kind of showing that to me. And they're like, wow, that is so cool. So it's sort of that, aha moment when they're like, yeah. And then with all the testimonials I have and, everyone kind of refers, people to me, for this, that, I stay pretty busy. But the target is to just be an allowance with everyone wherever they are, and then support them in where they're headed and where they'd like to be.
The transition from not being aligned to becoming more aligned has to be enlightening for people. And what is it like to watch people go through this process?
So that is my joy. When people are able to just, actually embrace, the grace and the gratefulness, that is their truth. So many of us have been functioning from the lies that we were told, the lies that we bought into, the programming that we have running, that they actually aren't in tune with their true essence of who they are. So there's an element where I bring back the soul fragments and I bring forth time stamps that have taken place. And I can give you an example of that. So for instance, COVID and 9/11, and before that, the Kennedy assassination, they were all incidences that happened here in America, but COVID was all around the world, but here in America as well. The whole world sat back, took notice, and with 9/11, like every plane came to the ground, every border was locked down. And we all know exactly where we were, who we were with, what we were wearing, and probably what we had for breakfast that day when that took place. That is a timestamp, because what happens is you start to move and create based on that time. So right now, the soonest one is COVID that we've had. Before that was 9/11. Before that was like Kennedy. So with COVID, people are still now going, now wait, did we meet before COVID?
Or after? Yeah.
Now, was there something we did in the middle, or was that after COVID? And so you start creating your reality based on the past and what that past incident creates. So energy doesn't have words. So I tried to give as much words to give you the visualization of kind of what it is that I work with. We all have a record. So we have our personal records, and then humanity has a record. And so when there's an incident that creates a timestamp, and so COVID, 9/11, Kennedy all brought up emotions, and it was emotional trauma at whatever level it was for each of us. For humanity, it creates a scratch on the record. On our personal records, our emotional trauma creates a scratch. So every day when you wake up and you start playing your record, you get to a certain part and you're like, and then you go around and there's like a skip. So what I do is I go in and I eliminate the incident, I eliminate the charge, I eliminate the trauma from it, and it cleans your record. So that way you're no longer having to function from that traumatic experience that took place.
Interesting. And that timestamp, I can see how that timestamp is embedded in all of us without us even knowing.
Exactly. And it's designed to do that. Yeah.
How is it designed? Why?
Well, it's designed so you're not free flowing. So there's a thing called round peg, round hole. And when we were kids, we kept trying to force those little cubes. Remember that little shape?
Yep.
It was red on the top and blue on the bottom, and you'd pull it open and you'd shake the shapes out. Well, we would try to jam like the star in the circle, like it just wasn't going to happen until you got the right shape in the right hole. Well, that's what it's like. Like as humanity, it's kind of like running along on our record, and we're playing it and we're looping and we're in flow. There's a speed bump that needs to take place to stop us, to bring up fear, to create an emotional traumatic event, whatever it happens to be. And so the more of humanity that's impacted by it, the slow down, the slower it creates us in moving forward and expanding, because we buy into that trauma, drama, and the reality or the narrative that they're setting forth with whatever they choose to create for us.
So when you talk to people, do you have like a feeling or an inclination or an energy feeling that you're getting when you're talking to somebody?
All the time.
And does it change? Because, now that we're after COVID, here's that timestamp, we're all virtual, right? Versus most everybody was in person before in a lot of things that we do. How does that change for you? Or does it change at all?
No, because there's no separation. Whether you're here or I'm standing next to you, there's the same amount of information that's being exchanged. So every molecule has consciousness. So that's the food we eat, the clothes we wear, the technology we're using. That's also our thoughts, our feelings, and our emotions. So all of those also speak to us in ways. And Dr. Emoto's research about the molecular structure of water, and when you place an intention on it, it actually changes the molecular structure of it when he freezes it, pulls it out, takes a slide and a picture. So the same is true with our organs, because how much of us are, is water?
Right.
I don't know, 80 something percent, 75, something like that. So it's not only our thoughts, feelings, and emotions, but we're like satellite dishes, Jean. And so we're picking up on everyone else's thoughts, feelings, and emotions at the same time. And we hear it up here. And because we hear it up here, we think it's ours. So we start to run, good, bad, right, and wrong based on what we're hearing, even if it's not ours. That's what creates the situation with our bodies, because our bodies have an immune system to keep it healthy. And the immune system is dual-fold. So one part of it gets rid of pathogens, illnesses, viruses, bacteria, anything like that in the system. The other part of the immune system filters out your emotions. So when you're at a young age, your immune system is not overloaded yet with all of life's trauma and drama. What we eat, what we drink, and what we breathe, that's all been tainted to not be true and pure and good for the body, helpful and healing. The body is self-preservating. So every time your body has to choose, it's going to choose the bacteria, the virus, the illness, versus processing your emotions. So what happens is your emotions start to build, and we know that we hold sadness and anger in the kidneys. And because of Dr. Emoto's research, the molecular structure changes. So our bodies are designed to reproduce themselves. So as we lose like skin cells, our body creates new skin cells. Well, the same is true with all of our organs. Our hair grows out, everything. And what happens is we start to duplicate the irregular cell growth. And it was influenced by the emotions that were not processed through. And it's not about going to therapy, because what therapy does is, and support groups and whatnot, is you have to identify with it, you have to relive it, you have to choose if you're good and bad and right and wrong, and it's 12 steps, 13 steps, 100
It's
steps.
another box.
Yes, yes. And you're good with this and you're bad with that. So the beauty of the work I do is that there's none of that. and we just go in, all in, like we're playing Texas Hold'em, we're all in with our chips. And we're pulling out anything and everything that no longer serves us. And regardless of what it is, how it got there, we don't need to know all that information. It's just that it is there and it's not a contribution, so it's got to go.
You're really trying to shuffle the habits too, right? So our habits dictate often how we feel and or are the actions that we take. And do you find that you're having to modify those habits because habits are like a box, right?
Yep, habits are routine.
Everything is a box now. All I'm thinking about is all these boxes that I'm in. I don't want to be in a box.
Yeah, so Truth, let me ask you, so are you do you have a being? So we have our body and we have our being. So the being is like spirit, source, soul, ghost, whatever people would like to refer to it as. So Truth, are you a being and a body or a body and a being?
Say that. Okay, so let's let that digest a second. So you are a being and a body or a body and a being? Okay.
Yeah.
And how do you figure that out? Talk to you.
I just like to ask people what their perception is, because a lot of religion has told us that the spirit's in the body, that the body houses your spirit. Well, you're actually infinite. So you've been here for the life of the universe. And doctors and scientists say it could be like in the trillions, multiple trillions of years. So you've been in different spaces in different places at different times, taking on different configurations of everything, because the target is to experience everything like God. We broke away, like we are God. And God decided, you know what? I would like to have these experiences here. You get to go do that. So a soul is born. And then that soul gets to go choose and do and be and have all these experiences. So that's why we talk about oneness, because we're all from God. We are God. And we're here to have tons of experiences. Only at this point in time here on planet Earth, we're looking to have like the greatest experience and the most fun possible. So people will ask me, well, what do I do? And how do I choose? And where do I go from here? I'm like, well, what's fun for you? They're like, what do you mean what's fun for me? Like, do you realize how hard it is for people to decide or choose or think of something fun for them? It's astounding. Like play, what do you like to play with? What would be fun for you? And they cannot, even in the face of total awareness, like figure that out. And fun, and so for me, I call it the fun factor. And so like life is difficult enough, wouldn't you say?
It can be a challenge.
Yeah. And if we could have figured out how to have the most joyful, completely abundant, amazing life, don't you think we would have by now?
But that also changes our energy too, our frequency.
What, having fun?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So the thing is, like, we would have figured it out if we could have, because it's not about figuring anything out. It's about the energy. And so fun is play, and play is when you were 3, 4, 5, 10, 8 years old, and you would create based on play with what was fun. And you could go from this and go to that and go to the next thing and just keep creating. Versus now, you don't know how to create anymore because you're supposed to do this and you have to do that and you must do the other thing. That's not how creation takes place.
That is, I think that's a profound thought, and it's so important for people to really seek you out.
Yeah. So when we were babies, right, we didn't really know anything at the time. Like we didn't even have language. Our first language is energy, Jean. It's not English, Spanish, French. Our first language is energy when we came out. And you'll see it with animals as well. You know how you'll see a baby like look up at the wall and go, what are they looking at? There's nothing there. Well, they see beyond the colors that are in the large crayon box.
Yes, another box.
We were taught to see only what was in the colors that were in the large crayon box. Anything else is not real. It's not believable. If you can't see it, it's not true. You can't have it, yada, yada. So it's all that programming ever since we were little. So we were taught as children that this frequency is red. This frequency is white. And you were taught over and over and over again, this frequency is black or silver. You were taught over and over and over again with repetition that that frequency is what we call red. And red is RED. And this person, this frequency is mom, and this frequency is dad. So you start to form the box since they're a baby, that they form structure and significance fit in. That's just how this planet was designed. This just is how this reality is right now until they get with me, and then we just blow everything up.
Amazing. This has really been a fascinating conversation. And so if people would like their box blown up and really understand where they're at and where they really want to be, how do people get in touch with you, Susan?
Yeah, so just go to my website, susanshatzer.com, and there'll be a booking link right on there, as well as explanations and videos and testimonials and whatnot. But yeah, book a 30-minute, there's no cost consultation. And we just kind of sit and chat and see like what's going on, what's happening, you know, your level of receiving, like, is this something that, you know, you're ready for? Can I support you with it? And we just take it from there.
That's fantastic. This has been really fascinating. So thank you
so much for having me. I love, you know, rising tides, like Discover the Rising Tides, because this is a tide that's rising for humanity. You know, I live right on the beach, and the tide goes in and out every day. And it takes out, when it goes out, like all of the stuff that no longer serves everyone, and it brings in
back the new
and the awarenesses of what is required for the next day. So I love, and I just felt so led to both of you to be here today to kind of speak to what you're creating in the world. And I'm extremely grateful for that opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for listening today. Today's show is sponsored by Seaside Solutions, my financial services company. As a business owner, it's easy to be pulled in many different directions, and often taking care of yourself plummets to the bottom of the list. For me, I find myself outside to reground. My time outdoors helps me manage my day more effectively and be more present for my clients. Through this, Discover Rising Tides was born. At Seaside Solutions, we truly believe that education is the foundation of financial wellness. Our primary focus is to provide guidance that is designed to help you achieve your long-term financial goals and visions. Working with a plan allows space for doing more things that you love, like being outside to make the inside better. If I can help you create or realign your plan, or if you would like to be added to my weekly newsletter, please let me know. This week's topic was 5 ways to set more achievable goals. Your referral means the big, beautiful world to me. And if I can help, please let me know. And thank you so much for listening, and see you next time.